You are here and you want to buy a property which is here. Unfortunately, between you and the perfect property you want to buy are 7 different steps that you need to go through one by one. You cannot leave out any of the steps. You cannot switch up any of the steps. Here in bureaucratic Germany, everything has to be done exactly the way that I'm gonna show you in this video. So let's get going so you can buy your dream property as soon as it hits the market before somebody else buys it before you. The first and most important step that many of you guys seem to forget or simply ignore is that you need to prepare yourself if you want to buy a property. And I don't care who you are and what property you want to buy, if you are not prepared properly in body and mind, your dream of buying real estate will stay a dream forever. Don't even try to finance if you just started a new job. In the probation period, the first 6 months of your employment, where you can get fired within 2 weeks for no reason, it is very, very tough to get a mortgage. And the same with a blue card, because we are currently at the end of the year. End of the year is always harder to get a mortgage because banks have done a lot of business already and they fulfilled all their goals. In January, it's going to be a lot easier again, and this is also when blue card should be possible again. Aside from these personal factors, there are also some financial things you should work on. Don't have personal loans. If you have 10k in savings and 10k personal loan, you have 0 in the eyes of many banks. And it's actually worse because your monthly rate for the personal loan eats into your liquidity. So pay off your personal loans and start saving for 2 things. Money, because you have right around 10% closing costs when buying a property here in Germany. In the video 2 weeks ago, we discussed the perfect ways to invest your money for different time periods. So check that out and select the option that fits best depending on when you want to buy your property. And second, start building equity. That's money above the 10% closing cost you won't need to spend on the transaction. So you can invest it in a meaningful way, which gives me the perfect opportunity to shift on the Bausparvertrag again. This makes 0 sense for real estate, and this makes even less sense if you want to buy a car. A couple of weeks ago, one of you guys reached out saying that the bank salesman said you need a Bausparvertrag if you want to buy a car in 2 years. How does this make any sense? Look, buying a property is a very important goal for you, and all of this is very confusing because there are lots of variables at play here. I get it. So before you make any big mistake that we can't fix anymore later on, how about you book your free meeting with us, and then we can see how we can prepare you for real estate in the best way possible. And it always works. Always. You just gotta follow the advice we're giving you. We can't work wonders, of course. We will not be able to buy a multi-family home for 10 million in the middle of Munich if you work for minimum wage. But if you follow the exact steps we're giving you, you will be able to buy a property 100%. Within your means, of course. And lastly, for the preparation phase, do you want to buy a home for yourself or an investment property that you rent out? We discussed all the different pros and cons in this video, so let me just say in short here. If you want to make a financially smart decision, don't buy a home, continue renting. If you want to make a lifestyle decision and don't care about the money, then go ahead and buy a home. Watch the video and let me know after if you still believe in the sentence that rent is a waste of money. Making the home or investment decision is so important because of step 2, selecting the property. If it's a home, you actually have to like it, and the location is very important, right? If it's a rental property, you couldn't care less how it looks like, because you don't want to move in yourself. The numbers of the property have to make sense. And of course, you can choose a location that makes the most sense from an investment perspective if you get a property management company to take care of the property for you. Then you can really invest in the best locations in Germany because your presence there is never required. Now the question is, how much property can you afford? Our video about this will help you out because we discussed the 3 rules of thumb to answer that question. We can't determine the exact number because it will also depend on your property at the end of the day. But we can come very close. And if you're not sure where to find the best properties because ImmoScout is so overpriced, then go to perfinex.de/properties to access our properties without any makler in between, saving you a couple of €1,000 right there. The main question you want to ask yourself is, what makes the most sense? A new property or an old property? And that depends on your tax rate. At least if you make this a pure financial decision, which you should anyway. Because the higher your tax rate, the more it makes sense to buy an old property that needs renovations. We'll talk more about this in step 6. Now that you shortlisted a couple of properties that fit the best to your financial situation, take a very good look into the exposés and identify any red flags. How is the building structure, roof, pipes in the walls, electronics, heating? Look for the expensive things that might cost you a lot of money. Why is the seller selling the properties? Also a good question to ask. And one thing that likes to be forgotten, check the WEG protocols for any future renovations, which might actually answer the question why the property is being sold now. And if it's an ImmoScout property, the price will be most likely too high. So negotiate as much as you can. After eliminating all properties with red flags, it's time for you to leave the house and visit the properties. Take a good look at the properties inside and out and see if reality matches what was advertised in the exposé. And if you are not an expert in real estate yet, there's absolutely zero shame in taking an expert with you to make sure that you don't make a mistake worth hundreds of thousands of euros like the couple that we discussed in this video. How can we help you in all of this? Our properties on perfinex.de/properties are quality checked from experts before we upload them to our website. This way we make sure that you get a great investment for your money and you are not overpaying by hundreds of thousands of euros. Now that we have a property, it's time to get a mortgage, because you cannot get a mortgage without a property. And probably the most important decision in the mortgage process, should you make a down payment or not? Sometimes you don't have a choice. If the bank doesn't like your property or your financial situation that much, you have to make a down payment. But if you have the choice, the best option depends on what you're looking for. We compare both options in detail in this video and found out that if you do make a down payment, your cash flow gets better. Obviously, because your mortgage is lower. And if you don't make a down payment, your return is better. Obviously, because you invest less of your own money. Here's a real-life example from a client that bought a property for 350k here in Munich. With a 10% down payment, her interest rate was 3.66%, compared to 3.92% with a 100% mortgage. And because her interest was better and she took less mortgage, her monthly payment was €241 lower. Sounds nice, but of course her initial investment was €35,000 higher with the down payment. Now the question is €240 a month worth €35,000 for you or not? And the second very important decision when it comes to your perfect mortgage, do you go for the lowest interest rate or higher flexibility? And that's the big benefit of working with us, that we have right around 800 different banks at our disposal, which make almost every mortgage possible. Again, Blue Card is difficult this time of the year and everything has to be in scale. Financing millions of euros with minimum wage will not work. And to illustrate my point that flexibility is most of the time more important than the lowest interest rate, here's another real-life example from a client introducing you to the concept of Tilgungsersatz. Here's a mortgage for €289,000 with an interest rate of 3.68% and a monthly payment of €1,127. Why so low? Because the repayment of the loan, Tilgung in German, is 1% only. Incredibly low, and that's why the client is cash flow positive from day one, because the rent he will get is 1,200 euros. Is this normal? No. This mortgage is a beauty of art, and I'm very proud that we achieved something like this. What makes this mortgage so beautiful, aside from the positive cash flow of course, is that now the client has a monthly surplus of 785 euros, but in retirement it's minus 600 euros. And banks do not like this at all. So now the client had two options. Either he increases the Tilgung from 1% to 1.5 or 2%, so he finishes the mortgage before retirement age. Or, and this is by far the better option, he gets a pension that pays him at least 600 euros a month when he retires. And of course we took this option. It's much better to invest in ETFs and pensions to get on average 7% return instead of saving 3.68% by giving more money to the bank. And since we are talking about a real estate investor here, his 3.68% interest is tax deductible. So net, it's only 2.13% with a 42% income tax rate. And if you have the choice to invest with 7% or save 2%, I know what I would take any day of the week. Now it's getting serious, because after finding the right property in combination with the perfect mortgage, you gotta go to the notary and secure the deal. That means somebody needs to draft a purchasing contract. Hopefully someone who knows what he is doing, and hopefully this someone is using our 7 real estate tax tricks to make your property purchase as tax efficient as possible. Other than that, the notary meeting is pretty easy, if you know what you're doing. And this is the value you can get from us, because most of the time we are the only person in the room that speaks English and has knowledge of the entire real estate process, because we've done it countless times. And we've also seen first-time buyers panic countless times if the Kaufpreisfälligkeitsmitteilung is coming late, or they don't send the Auszahlungsauftrag to the bank, and suddenly they think the bank is not gonna pay. So, very important in this step, make sure that everyone gets the documents they require to do their job. The next step is only relevant if you bought an existing property with renovation potential. And if there is none, then try to find it. Because if you can improve the quality of the property, the value will increase and you will get more rent. So your entire investment will be more profitable. What do you need for that? Good and available handyman that will do a great job for a reasonable price. And if you want the bank to pay for all the renovation costs, you need to get offers from handymen before you get the mortgage, or as part of the mortgage, but not afterwards. Because what if you get the mortgage done and ask the bank afterwards for more money for renovations, but they say no? Then what? And that is why we have with our properties that you can find on perfinex.de/properties everything ready before we upload them, so that there's no nasty surprises for you guys, and the bank will pay for the renovations, but you can deduct them from your taxes. And of course, our regional partners will be ready to go to work right after your notary meeting, so you have a tenant as soon as possible. Some of the partners will be featured in our very own Fix and Flip series that will hopefully come very soon, so stay tuned for that one. Now that the property is yours and ready to rent out, it's time to find a tenant. So, publish the property online or wherever, show it to potential new tenants, draft a rental contract, and give the tenant the keys. Quite a lot of work and quite a lot of pitfalls, especially with the rental contract. I would highly advise against drafting one yourself or downloading one from the internet, because who knows if this is still legally correct with all the legal changes that are being made all the time. So you either hire a lawyer that specializes in rental law, or of course, you let your property manager handle everything for you. That's what we discussed in many videos already, that you probably want to hire a professional property manager at some point because they are doing an incredible job for the 20 to 35 euros a month they are usually charging. Their responsibility is to take good care of your property, that you always have a tenant, nothing's damaged, they respond to inquiries from your tenant, they deal with the day-to-day operations so you can focus on being an investor. And as an investor, your responsibility is to pay all the bills, which brings us back to the Kaufpreis-Fälligkeitsmitteilung we talked about earlier on. Make sure everyone does their job they're supposed to do, and everything will go smooth and your real estate investment will be profitable. And if you like being a real estate investor, why not do it as many clients before you? Let's connect again to see when and where and for how much you can buy the next property. And last but certainly not least, real estate is one of the most profitable investments out there because of all the tax benefits you can get. So let's file your tax declaration. And that means you need to gather all the documents, especially the ones connected to the renovations, because this will be the biggest part of your tax benefits by far. And since it is very tough to get help from Lohnsteuerhilfeverein and online websites do not work anymore if you have a property, it might be time to get a professional tax advisor to join your team of professional property manager and professional financial advisor. And if our partners at PerFinEx can help you with that, you can visit their website. What did we learn in this video? Buying a property is easy. You just gotta have a lot of cash to pay for the initial investment, and you gotta know what you're doing. Jokes aside, we see a lot of mistakes being made along the entire process, especially from first-time buyers and especially from the expat community, which is probably because of the language barrier. And by explaining everything in detail, step by step in this video, I hope you can draw some value here and everything will go as smooth as possible for you. And if we can help you along the way, then let us know by booking a free meeting with us on perfinex.de/meeting. I thank you very much for watching and happy Sunday, everyone.